Sure, welcome to a park that has one of the best coaster collections in the country. Not only that, but also being among the most beautiful places out there. Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. This park was a huge part of my childhood, but has only gotten better since then. So let's go check out what thrills are inside. This is my first visit to the park since Iron Gwazi opened. Surprisingly, I haven't been here since before 2020, so getting on Iron Gwazi is definitely a huge priority today. But I decided to rope drop one of the coasters that gets pretty long lines, Cheetah Hunt. The cheetahs are out on their morning stroll, ready to take on the day, and I am ready to take on Cheetah Hunt. Here's a random fact about me and this coaster. For some reason, by whatever odds, out of the, 6 or 7 times I've been on this ride, I've been lucky enough to only ride it in the front row. I haven't made any extra effort to do that, it's just where I happen to end up by chance every single time. I don't even know how that's possible, but that streak of luck has got to end at some point. And today was that day. I ended up somewhere in the middle of the train, but it was still so much fun to be back on this ride. Cheetah Hunt is an iconic ride at Busch Gardens. The queue area is a nice little area to wait, and I love how they reused the old monorail station for it. The monorail was such a significant attraction in the park's early years, so it's really nice to hang on to that history. And the coaster layout memorializes some defunct history as well. And probably one of the biggest highlights of the ride, you're racing through a little canyon area over the water, following the path from the defunct Rhino Rally. Shout out to Rhino Rally. But that section is probably the highlight of the ride, and it's one of the many reasons this coaster is so iconic. And another is that signature treetop element. It's a creative way to incorporate the ride's theme into the layout. This isn't just a coaster with a random animal slapped on there for theming. It's not like some random coaster out there called Grizzly Bear and it has nothing to do with grizzly bears whatsoever other than just it's a cool name. No, Cheetah Hunt, it has these launches that feels like you're running with the cheetahs, and it goes up into that tree area like you're jumping into the trees, and you're racing around the wild. It's such a good way to encapsulate that whole theme and also be thrilling at the same time. It's smooth, it's a whippy coaster. No, it's not the most intense out there, but it is a good family thrill, and it has some of the prettiest moments on any coaster. Right after Cheetah Hunt, I got a quick little ride on Cobra's Curse and Montu. I'm actually skipping a little part of my day here at the beginning because it was kind of drizzly and I met up with some family, but don't worry, I'll get into it later. I'll be back to talk about all of this, but I've got bigger things on my mind today as I'm headed over for my first ride on Iron Gwazi. Growing up, the original Gwazi was one of my favorite coasters. I think it was my first dueling coaster, and it was probably my first wooden coaster too. I thought that lion versus the tiger concept was so creative, and the art style was perfect. I've always enjoyed the little light theming touches Busch Gardens gives their coasters to elevate them. Gwazi's pre-lift area too looked so cool from the pathway. Everything about that ride just stood out to me. Anywho, the original Gwazi is long gone, and Iron Gwazi is here. It now has a crocodile theme, but with that same adventure aesthetic with the thatch roofs and the tropical landscaping and the general environment that just gets you ready for the most intense journey you've ever experienced. I've done a good number of RMCs at this point and not a single one has disappointed. I was kind of expecting more of the same with this one. And that's by no means a bad thing. RMCs are absolutely top tier, so I was absolutely ready for a fun ride. But whoa, this one was so much more than that. The pacing caught me completely off guard. This thing hauls so much more than I expected it to. Every single moment of this coaster is either trying to fling your body back to the parking lot or trying to squish you into your seat. There is no in between. So what do I think of Iron Gwazi? We might be talking about my new number one. It caught me off guard, and it takes a lot for a coaster to catch me off guard. It did such intense things at a speed that I'm not sure I've experienced those two things together on a coaster before. It's hard to say if it's my number one. I'm bad at ranking coasters. I just enjoy my favorites, and that's that. But this is a strong contender for the best coaster I've ever been on, and I will 100% be back later in the day. And by the way, is there anything more satisfying than the sound of an RMC lift hill? Let's take a little break from the coasters and enjoy the wild side of Busch Gardens. The animal exhibits and little peaceful vista areas are definitely what separates Busch Gardens from other parks on this level. You want to ride coasters? Great, there are plenty here. You want to chill and enjoy some wildlife? Great, there's plenty to enjoy. Busch Gardens is such a well-balanced park. It's good to pace the day with some thrills and some chills. Here we are in Egypt. It's so gorgeous, so grand. I spent a lot of time here as a kid in the little dig site, and I'm checking out a few other old remnants in this area, like the old venue for the Akbar Adventure Tours ride. That was such a cool ride. Maybe it's best left in the 90s, but this park could really use some sort of dark ride. And I'm remembering back on the old King Tut's tomb attraction, which is now the queue area for Cobra's Curse. Speaking of, let's go grab another ride on Cobra's Curse. This is definitely one of the best queue areas in the whole park. It's so well themed and it has air conditioning, and plus this really cool pre-show. It's some incredible creative work to set up the story. It's something you wouldn't necessarily expect at a Busch Gardens park, but it is so well done and gets you in the mood for this ride. Then you get to the ride. It starts with that elevator lift system, which is really oddly exciting to go up. I don't know, it seems like a basic part of the ride, but it really is fun. It's a spectacle to stand there and watch it, and it really fits that archaeological dig site aesthetic too. Then you're face to face with that massive serpent sculpture. They really went all out with the theming on this one, and it really makes it stand out. At certain points in the ride, there's a soundtrack that's really good. There's some narration that still continues on the story as you're on the ride, and it was so creative for them to break up this ride in 3 sections with the forward, reverse, and spinning sections. They make the best use of that ride system with so much variety too, and that random spinning section has some good rewritability. It really does make me want to get back on it, as long as it doesn't make you queasy. I'm a fan of Cobra's Curse. This is a good family ride. Let's loop back around to what a lot of enthusiasts consider the best invert in the world. It is definitely in the conversation, Montu. It's hard to believe this thing is nearly 30 years old. I'm old enough to remember when they had crocodiles under your feet in that one little section. I'm sure those little fellas didn't appreciate it so much. But even as old as this ride is, it is still so elite in the park's coaster lineup, and it's still among the best coasters in the world. Montu is also another nicely themed coaster for Busch Gardens. No, not quite as themed as Cobra's Curse, but it gets the job done. You can't go wrong with a theme of ancient Egyptian mythology. The whole surrounding area with the archway and all the little tributes everywhere make it feel like more than a coaster. The whole experience is vivid, like something larger than life. And talk about a bone-crushing ride. It doesn't get any better than diving in and out of those little trenches and pressing into your seat. It is a classic, and it is held up incredibly well. This is a top-tier coaster at Busch Gardens. I'm gonna head over to the other side of the park for some more coasters, but I'm gonna take the scenic route. I hope you don't mind taking it easy for a little bit. Alright, I'm really taking the scenic route because I'm hopping on the train for some Serengeti views. It's kind of like Kilimanjaro safaris at Animal Kingdom, but with a beautiful backdrop of the park's massive coasters in the background. Some of the little outlook areas in this park seriously look like they could be the wallpaper on your laptop or something. This is so picturesque. I'm making a little visit to Pantopia and Falcon's Fury. I really don't like drop towers, and this one never used to bother me. It didn't feel real, but I guess this time was different, and I'd rather not talk about it. Just listen to this screaming. No, that's not me, but that's pretty close to what I sounded like and how it felt. That's a one and done for today. That's all I'll say. But I will talk what I think is the most underrated coaster in the park. Scorpion. And this is awkward. Literally, as I was putting this video together, the exact moment, Busch Gardens announced Scorpion is closing permanently on September 2nd, 2024. So by the time you're seeing this video, Scorpion is unfortunately closed. This news stings. I really can't process it. Scorpion has been constant. Every single time I've visited this park since the 90s, Scorpion has been here. This thing has been here since 1980. I can't imagine Busch Gardens without it. Even before Busch Gardens announced the ride was closing, here's exactly what my notes said about this coaster. This is what I was gonna say anyway. The only difference is that I'm gonna use past tense here, I guess. But I thought Scorpion was a genuinely good coaster. It was a small but mighty ride, and it was over 40 years old, still offering what I'll controversially say was the most intense moment on any coaster at Busch Gardens. That triple helix at the end crushed you, and I honestly, nostalgia aside, sentimental value aside of it being my first looping coaster, I honestly think it was one of the better coasters in the park. It was so slept on, so underrated. Scorpion still had some sting. I made a whole retrospective video about Scorpion if you want to go check that out, but for now, so long Scorpion. Thanks for the milestone. And just to anyone out there watching this right now, go and ride your favorite rides whenever you have the chance. If you see it there, it's a 5-minute wait, 10-minute wait, 20-minute wait. Go and ride it. You never know when it'll be your last chance to ride this ride. I'm so glad I rode it a couple times when I was here at the park during this visit in May, because I don't have the chance to go back and ride it now. So I'm so glad I had that opportunity. From one bone-crushing helix to another, and now what is the oldest coaster in the park today? It is time for Kumba. Before Iron Gwazi showed up, this was by far my favorite coaster in the park. This was a coaster that probably cracked my top 10 of every coaster I've ever ridden. And after not riding it for 5 years or so, I was so ready to get back on it. Unfortunately, Kumba this time around didn't hold up to those lofty expectations. But it's still good. I don't know, something about it didn't blow me away this time. I'd say it might be my third or fourth favorite coaster in the park now, even though Iron Gwazi is the only new addition, so it dropped with not many other changes around the park. But I still gotta appreciate this bad boy. Kumba sits in a beautiful little environment with palm trees. I mean, just look at this scenery. You don't see many coasters as nice as this. It recently got some snazzy new signage, and that roar. Ooh, you can hear the intensity on this one. Even though my feelings have changed about this coaster for now, I still appreciate so much about it. The amazing color scheme, the first inversion wrapping around the lift hill, the weightlessness of the 0G roll, the photogenic interlocking corkscrews, the way it rips through the helix at the end, just scraping over the ground. I love how the coaster track, the pathways, and the Congo River Rapids ride all interlocked. It's such an incredible design. design. The way they put this whole section all together, it's amazing. So Kumba, I hope a future visit will turn me back around on you. You still have an honorary spot among my favorite coasters ever, and maybe I just got a few bad rides this day. But a few bad rides on Kumba still means it's one of the best rides in the park. That's how high quality this ride is. I am so glad it exists, and hopefully next time is better. We'll have to wait and see. The day is kind of winding down, but still so much to do. The log flume is already drained and closed for the day. The crowds are getting lighter. It's time to really start thinking about what I want my last rides to be. I'm checking out Tigris real quick just to see some old rock work from the defunct boat ride that used to be here. It's cool when they could repurpose stuff like this, and I love themed pathways. But what I really want to do tonight is go grab a ride on SheiKra before heading over to Iron Gwazi to close out the night. Way back in the day, I rode this during its opening weekend or opening day, I'm not really sure. It was right around when the ride opened. And I remember the line is out the door, I'm waiting on the pathway. I had never seen anything like this before. Looking up and seeing that vertical drop, that was terrifying at the time. But these dive coasters are always a lot of fun. No, they're not the most intense, but you're diving toward the ground and soaring in the air. To me, that sounds like a good time. And SheiKra is another coaster with really lovely theming and a gorgeous environment. It's something special with little touches around the area. Diving into theming like this, it just makes it so much better. And that massive splashdown, it's always so fun when a coaster interacts with a pathway like that. Kids love getting soaked, and it's always so fun to watch the trains going by. SheiKra is just an overall solid coaster for the park, and I think it's celebrating its 20th anniversary next year. Sheesh, time flies. I gotta close the day with the coaster that stole the show. It feels so special being up in this area. I love walking up the ramps toward the station, but let's talk about this ride. So, the first drop is unbelievable. The train rips to the bottom of the hill. It feels like it kind of just dangles your body at the top and then just yanks you down. It's so fast, but it feels like it lasts forever. It's one of my favorite first drops ever. From then on, it makes the most of every single element. Every turn, every hill, every inversion is exactly as intense as it can be in that exact moment. It has so much variety with the types of airtime, with the types of inversions, and how the whole layout is constructed. It is so well designed. And let's talk about the death roll. There's always that conversation of the death roll versus the Mosasaurus roll on Velocicoaster. And when I rode Iron Gwazi earlier in the day for the first time, I was blown away by the ride, but I didn't think the death roll was anything overly special compared to the rest. It was just as good as the rest of the ride, that's a good thing. This is a great ride. But later in the day, that death roll felt like it was trying to tie me up like a pretzel or something. That inversion lives up to the hype. Amazing, amazing inversion. Love it. I feel like I have to mention how slow the operations are on this ride. The employees are all doing a good job, but the process to load each train took forever. It was worth it for a ride like this, but just a little side note about Gwazi. It does get bogged down a little bit. But still, I think this took my #1 spot, or now. Busch Gardens always feels like visiting home again. I hope I get to visit sooner rather than later. But that is gonna do it for me on this trip. It's so sad to leave, but it's time to go. Thanks for watching. I visited Busch Gardens just before Phoenix Rising opened, so I still need to go back for that coaster, and of course get more rides on Gwazi, and sadly not Scorpion. Goodbye Scorpion. But I want to know from you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. What's your favorite coaster there? I love to hear it, so drop it down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe for future vlogs and in-depth videos. Special thanks to Storybook Amusement patrons. Shout out to the producer credits, Parallel Discover, and Nick E. Thanks everyone so much for watching. Be kind and rewind.